Okay, let us start with the final questions and answers. And always, if you wish to ask questions as we go along, please do so, and we can kind of follow up on any follow-up questions you may have. All right. Wow. Okay, it's a long one. Dear Ajahn, I lead an organization that deals with a difficult client who nitpicks and speaks harshly. However, I often talk to him calmly, negotiating and reasoning my way through. I didn't let him affect me, which has brought more care or more case to my job, not sure, anyway. However, my senior leaders are deeply affected. One by one have left over time because they cannot tolerate. While I am less affected, I feel the weight of the impact on my team. It becomes tiring to carry this alone. There is no kalyana in my workplace. I've also shared this concern with the client's management for support, but my team is impatient to see change. When they resign, I am left with the burden of backfilling every other month. I'm grateful to have the Dhamma, but it is challenging when those around me are not on the same path, despite me trying to share a different aspect with them to help them when they complain to me. How can I continue to practice wisely in such conditions, supporting others without being drained and walking this path, even when I feel alone at work? So I think the answer to many of these things is that either you can deal with it and you are able to grow with the difficulties, or the difficulties are just too much and you can't grow with it, and then you need to make a change. These are really the only two possibilities. So if you are able to deal with it personally and you can kind of grow with the issue, then do that. But as you are saying here, it's basically too much and you don't know how to deal with it anymore. So then you have to make a change. Yeah, and that's okay. It's okay to make changes, of course. So find out what is the best way to make a change. I don't really fully understand your situation or who this client is or whatever, but maybe it is a client that you have to give up. Yeah, maybe some clients, you have to say, sorry, we can't support you anymore or whatever, and then you have to give up that client because they're too difficult. And if your senior management is leaving because of this client, well then, you have probably good reason for that. So speak to your even more senior management. Speak to those people who are ultimately affected by this and say, we have to do this, not working anymore. It's kind of destroying the company from within and we need to make a change. So speak to somebody who actually can make these difficult decisions and then you can jointly kind of come to a good solution. If you can't come to a good solution, then you may have to quit your job, yeah? And you already have a very good attitude, it seems, so you probably can find a good job somewhere else as well, because in the end of the day, you have to look after yourself as well. It's great to look after your team, but if it doesn't work, then ultimately you may have to kind of leave that job yourself. So find out where it is best to make a change. You obviously need to make a change. Find out the right place for making change. Consider your various options, and then start with the most obvious option, and if that doesn't work, then end up with the most drastic step, which may be to ordain. Ordaining? Because in the end, there is no final solution to these problems, right? In the end, there's always going to be these sort of problems. And that's kind of what the Buddha is on about, by giving up the 5 sense world. Right? So in the end, you have to give up the 5 sense world because that is where the issues are and they can't really be resolved at the end of the day. There is no solution at the end of the day. And so this is kind of why at the end, you end up ordaining, becoming a monk or nun, because actually you understand that you can only do so much. All right. Yes? No? Okay. Why? Okay, so... It depends. They can live like you, Venerable. You're living by yourself in a QT here, yeah, and you kind of living far away, secluded from everyone else. It's a great way to live. Yeah, monastic life. Yeah, so yeah. No, so you have to. I don't know. I think monastic life is great. I think I recommend that to everyone. There's no, what else are you going to do? It's just too, yeah, yeah. What VSW? What? Vito, what about? Yeah, kangaroos are very helpful. That's true. Yeah. But you live quite a suitable place, Venerable Punsirivara. Is that correct? You have a nice, your own little hermitage. You have changed your place. Suratani. Okay. Okay. And you have living by yourself still, or with monks? Okay. Oh, no wonder you have so much dukkha. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's working well. Okay. Not too much suffering. Okay. Good. So you are recommending becoming a bhikkhuni then? You're saying it's a positive thing. Yeah. It's true. It's not always plain sailing, but I think there are always opportunities in monastic life. Yeah, to find ways and find places that are suitable. So of course, no life is perfect, but if you want the fast way out of samsara, the monastic life is usually the fast way. Lay life is sometimes no way out at all, unfortunately. And slowly, yeah, and then eventually you kind of find your way out. Anyway, nothing is easy. Let us move on to the next one. Do you think Christian Catholics that are trying to convert you as fool, or we can continue to be associated with them as they are our best friends since childhood and close relatives? If they are trying to convert you, they are foolish, because they don't understand. It means they don't appreciate the power of the Dhamma, and probably they haven't really checked. Probably they haven't investigated properly. They're probably just holding on to Christianity because they're used to that, and because of that, people who try to convert others. I don't really like that, because it means often a lot of disharmony. If you try to convert someone, it causes problems. It causes all kind of issues. So you should suggest that maybe you should consider being a Buddhist instead. Yeah, are you sure this God that you're following, maybe that God doesn't exist? Maybe there is no such God. Yeah, maybe you are having faith in something which doesn't exist. So maybe you should move a different direction. I don't know. I find it really hard to understand why people want to be Christian. I don't really understand this at all. Can anyone else understand that? Maybe you can explain to me, because it sounds like such a silly thing. You believe in something, and maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't. You just have blind faith. That's kind of the idea of Christianity. In Buddhism, we take responsibility for our own lives. We do what is required. It's a very different way of thinking about things. So it's not for me to tell you whether you should continue to be associated. It's up to you to decide. But if it becomes burdensome, then maybe associate a little bit less. And if it is not burdensome, if it doesn't bother you, then we can carry on. And so just is for you to feel out what seems appropriate in this kind of situation. But for me, I don't understand why people are interested in Christianity. I really don't understand that. I don't understand what Christianity has. Have you ever tried to read the Bible? So boring. It's just like terrible. Compare the Bible to the Suttas. Suttas 1,000 times better. And then they claim that God wrote the Bible. That's what they claim. What kind of God would write that kind of book? He should be ashamed of himself writing something like that. It's really bad literature. That's what I think. How can God write something? If God is really all-powerful, he should write something a bit better than the Bible. Anyway, Billy. Yeah. It's God's will. It's God's will, right? Okay. Yeah. Uh, God's will. Yeah, but what kind of will is that? Yeah, yeah. Right. So why would you want to believe in that kind of will? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, yeah. Easy for them. Yeah, they don't have to think. They don't have to consider things properly. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. So let's not. Sometimes people are some Christian people are really good people, and it depends on how you practice Christianity. There are good ways of doing it and bad ways of doing it. And I respect a lot of Christian people, and sometimes Buddhists are no better than Christians. We are just the same or worse sometimes. And so it's not so much about looking down upon Christians, but I think that some of the ideas are important to kind of consider properly, yeah, so you can make a proper choice about what is a preferable way of living. I think that is important, and that is where I don't understand. For me, I remember when I was about 14 or 15 years old, as a child I believed in God. Many people believe in God as children. Then I was 14 and I thought, why do I believe in this God anyway? What has God to do with anything? This doesn't make any sense. And ever since then, I kind of never had second thoughts about believing in God again. It didn't make any sense from about that age. And now, still, it makes no sense to me why we believe in that kind of God. A God that created the universe. Anyway, let's carry on. Hi Ajahn, I have a scenario. For example, I have some food and I saw a monk and a beggar. Everyone offered food to the monk and I see the monk who had too much food. Then I offer my food to the beggar instead. Supposingly, offering to the monk has more merits compared to a beggar, but both are good deeds. So am I a fool or the wise one here? Fool because I don't know how to choose a proper receiver to maximize my merits, or not so fool, or not so wise. So I'm going to come to this later on, but the Buddha doesn't say you should always give where there is most merit. This is one of those interesting things. If you always look for most merit, it's like being greedy. I want merit. Yeah, give me max. Which one is the arahant? That one or that one? Okay, I'm going to give over there to the arahant. But that makes it less merit if you're greedy. So you think there is most merit, you become greedy, and then you are reducing your own merit because you are greedy. So it doesn't work like that. So the Buddha says there are two questions. One question is where should I give? The other question is where is most merit? So you should not always give where there's most merit. Where should you give? You should give where your heart inclines, where you feel compassion, where you feel inspired. That is where you should give. Where the mind is placidity, the mind is calmed down, the mind is happy. So if you feel like giving to that beggar, you should give it to the beggar. If you don't like that blooming monk, don't give to that blooming monk, yeah? That monk, he is fat already, yeah? He doesn't need any more food. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to give to him. Everyone else is giving to him. So that is the right way to think. Feel what feels right to you. And whenever you feel inspired to give, then you should give. Even if you just read something in the newspaper, you see a beggar, as you say, and you feel inspired, give at that time. Yeah, that is the right way to think about these things. I remember I was here at the BGF some time ago, and people were saying, they were kind of joking about themselves and saying, oh yeah, here in Malaysia, we kind of, we always try to maximize our merit. Yeah, like we have a spreadsheet and we kind of calculate the maximum merit. And it's nice to have a good laugh at oneself for one's own kind of silliness, yeah? But you can see how that doesn't really maximize your merit at all, because it becomes way too greedy when you think about things in that way. So thank you for that question, but that is an important point. Dear Ajahn, could you clarify the practice of chanting and repentance in the Theravada tradition? My Mahayana friend has a daily chanting practice where she repents for her bad deeds done in the past and past lives, and then dedicates the chant to them, those she wronged. If not, they will come and collect their dues from her in the form of illness or accidents. We do not have such practices, do we? She asked me, and I'm not sure how to answer. To me, chanting is like a form of samatha meditation, and the closest I can think of it is transfer of merit and repentance to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha chants. Thank you. We don't really need to repent. Yeah, repentance is not really the Buddhist way. What we do is we ask for forgiveness if we make a mistake. And for those people, if you have wronged anyone in the past and you know who those people are, then ask them for forgiveness. Even if they have died, you can ask them for forgiveness in your mind. Yeah, I apologize for what I did. Please forgive me, and I forgive you too for anything you may have done. That is the right way, and then we can move forward. Anyone you can't remember from beyond that, there is nothing to do. Yeah, you can do a lot of chanting and you can dedicate the merit to them. It's kind of nice to dedicate merit. The problem is you don't get much merit by just chanting. You get much more merit by doing something kind, a real action, and then sharing the merit. So share the merits every time you do something kind, every time you make an offering, every time you're generous. That is what you should ideally do. Then there will be people who receive that merit. It may be some of the people you have wronged in the past, or it may not. It depends on where they are reborn. Yeah, and the best thing to do if you want to purify yourself is not to dedicate the merit to everyone you have wronged. The best way is to practice to the best of your ability, so you can purify or reduce the power of the bad karma. That is the Theravada way of doing things. This is one of the teachings I give on every retreat. Is a famous simile of the lump of salt. And the simile of the lump of salt is if you have a glass of water, the water symbolizes the good karma you have made. The salt symbolizes the bad karma you have made. If you have a lump of salt, you put it in a glass of water, because the salt is a lot compared to the water. It's very salty and very undrinkable. That's the severity of the karma. Take the same amount of salt, the same amount of bad karma, and you put it in a big lake, and you can't taste it anymore because it's completely diluted. Make a lot of good karma, then your bad karma from the past will be diluted and you won't have to experience it. That is the right way of doing this. So live well, be kind, and the bad karma of the past will not touch you. Do chanting. People do way too much chanting in this world. Yeah, it is not really useful. You kind of blather something in some ancient language that you don't understand. If you understand it and it's meaningful to you, do some chanting. If you don't understand what's going on, it has no meaning, it's not going to have any power. Yeah, it's going to be meaningless. Do the Metta Sutta in English. If you like chanting in Chinese, sometimes I hear they do chanting in Mandarin. Yeah, and that's great. If you understand Chinese and you chant in Mandarin and it's meaningful, please do so. That's fine. But it should be meaningful. It should be something which makes you peaceful, something which has a positive effect on your mind. Then you're doing the right thing. That's how to think about this. So that those will come and collect their dues. No, I don't think no one will come to collect anything here. So you just carry on practicing the right way. So, yeah. Okay. Dear Ajahn, do you have any advice for me to deepen my faith that all will be well and to be more at peace with the present moment? I spend majority of my waking hours at work. When I do well, I was not satisfied. I was not satisfied with the salary increment. When I was demotivated, my pay dropped. I was disappointed. I am trying to focus on my conduct and tell myself that better opportunities will come in due time. But I can't seem to shake this craving of getting out and can't be at peace. What can I do? So the point about work is not just to kind of have a salary increase, right? You have to think about work in a different way. And the most powerful way of thinking about work is what Ajahn Brahm taught me about work. And this is such a beautiful story. I've taught it here many times before, no doubt. But I will tell it again because it really shows you how you should think about work. And this was back in 1991. There was a big fire coming to Bodhinyana Monastery. And this was like one of these really hot days. It was the hottest day on record in Perth, 46 point something degrees. Yeah, you don't even get that hot here in KL, I hope, because it's kind of unbearable, especially if it's humid on top. Hot 46 degrees, and it was at the end of January. Everything was really dry after a long summer. And then the fire comes. Everything is tinder dry, ready to kind of explode and burn. And gradually the fire is coming closer and closer to the monastery. And the fire brigade comes and they tell everyone to assemble in the main hall of the monastery because they can see there may be a need to evacuate, get the cars ready with a key in the ignition so we can go at short notice. And the fire comes and they can see in the distance the trees exploding. Because in Australia you have gum trees, and gum trees are full of oil. And because they are full of oil, once the fire becomes very hot, they explode. Yeah, and it's kind of like a little bomb going off when its trees get hit like that. And so there comes a point when the fire brigade says we have to evacuate. This is no longer safe. The monastery is going to burn down. And at this time, Ajahn Brahm had just spent the previous 8 years building Bodhinyana Monastery, or 7 years or whatever it is, building Bodhinyana Monastery day and night. And Ajahn Brahm, you wouldn't believe it when you see him now, but in those days he was really fit and strong. He was thin. He was thin in those days. And he was an incredible work ethic. No one could work like Ajahn Brahm. He would get up at 7 a.m., have a small breakfast. Actually, they didn't have breakfast in those days. They only had one meal a day. Working, having one meal, continue working in the afternoon. And if he wasn't finished, he'd get out the floodlights and work in the evening. Then he would go back to his kuti, meditate at night, get up the next morning and carry on like this 7 days a week. Week after week, year after year, working. This was his life's work, building up Bodhinyana Monastery. This was what he did. He was the builder in many of these projects. One of the amazing stories, I don't know, you have seen the main hall at Bodhinyana Monastery. There's a gabled wall, the wall that goes up like this. And the top of the gable at the very peak is maybe 8 to 10 meters high. That's very high up. It's like 3 stories of 3-story building or something. And there was a point when that building, they were just building the bricks. There was no roof yet. There was no support structure. There was no scaffolding to walk on. All there was this wall going straight up for 10 meters. But there was a few bricks that needed to be laid at the very top. The very apex, there were 3 or 4 bricks missing that needed to be laid. So Ajahn Brahm, no one else dared to do it. So Ajahn Brahm said, I will lay those bricks. No scaffolding. You had to walk up. It was like this. So you had to walk up the side of the wall all the way to the top. So Ajahn, you can imagine, they're just double brick, very narrow like this, 8 meters high. So Ajahn Brahm would take bricks in one hand, cement in the other hand, and then he would walk up that one, all the way to the top, 8 meters above ground. Just thinking about it kind of gives me the jitters. It's kind of, wow, it must be crazy. And it was a bit crazy to do that. Then he does that, goes all the way up, lays the bricks, walks back down again. It's a miracle. He's alive, right? How did he survive these kind of things? So this was the commitment of Ajahn Brahm to that monastery. He basically gave his life for that monastery, almost. He didn't die, but he almost gave his life if he had fallen down. And now the fire is approaching, about to destroy his life's work. He has spent so much time working on that monastery. And so I asked Ajahn Brahm, how do you feel at that moment when you knew that the monastery is going to burn down? What was your feeling? And Ajahn Brahm said, at that moment when someone told me the monastery was going to burn down, I just let go, just like that. And so I asked Ajahn Brahm, how is that possible? How can you let go just like that? This is your life's work. Any ordinary person, if you have spent your whole life doing it, if something is your life's work and someone says, I'm going to destroy it in a second, they will feel terrible. They will go into depression. They will be sad. They will rage. They will jump up and down. They will say this is unfair. And Ajahn Brahm says the reason why I could let go is because I built the monastery, not really to build the monastery. I built the monastery because it is a good act. It's an act of generosity, an act of kindness for the world. And if the monastery burns down, I can continue that act on the next day by coming back and starting from scratch. Because it was an act of generosity, it was the kindness that was important. It was the generosity that mattered, not the result. Because we never know the result in life. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what is going to be the outcome of our work. But what we do know is that we can do things out of kindness and generosity, and then we are building up our own good qualities while doing something good for the world. It's so beautiful way of thinking about life. You do things because you are building up your spiritual qualities, not because you want to achieve some kind of result. Because those results are always going to be uncertain. You never know whether you will achieve them, but you can always be certain that you can build up your inner spiritual qualities. That is an absolute certainty. So you can come up back the next day and start from scratch. And that is how I suggest to you that you should think about your own work. Don't do it because you want to be appreciated. Don't do it because you want to get a higher salary. Don't do it because you want to build something up that is going to be a lasting memento of your life or whatever. Do it because you are building up your spiritual qualities. When you work, you have colleagues. When you work, you have customers. When you work, you have all these people that you affect. Do it out of kindness for them, out of generosity for the world. And when you do it out of kindness and generosity for the world, you are not only doing your work, but you are building up your spiritual qualities at the same time. You will never again be disappointed if you don't get a salary increase. You're not doing it for that purpose. You're doing it for something much more profound. If you can think even a little bit like that, it sounds like a very high ideal. I must admit, when Ajahn Brahm said that, I thought, wow, that's amazing. How can you have these kind of qualities? This to me is really supernormal qualities. But if you can do it even a little bit like that, you will never be disappointed again. And then you build up something that is truly satisfying within, something that truly allows you to become peaceful, and you won't have this kind of dissatisfaction anymore. That is how to think about life, how to think about all the aspects of life, and it will lead to so much peace for you as a consequence. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense, and I know it is a very high bar to clear and difficult thing to do, but it is the difficult things in life that are really worthwhile. The easy things are often silly and stupid and not really worthwhile. Okay. Sukhi Hotu Ajahn. Appreciate if Ajahn can share a daily life example of mindfulness versus awareness. Okay, so awareness and mindfulness are really kind of used almost synonymously. They're basically the same word. The difference is that mindfulness usually also implies a kind of memory, whereas awareness is just being aware. Yeah. So, for example, you can go back home and you can wash the dishes. You can be aware washing the dishes. Yeah. Kind of, you know what you're doing. But mindfulness, if it's done in the right way, also means having an understanding of why or how you're washing the dishes. Yeah. So you're washing the dishes and a bad thought comes into your mind. And awareness will just say, bad thought, yeah, aware of the thought. Mindfulness will say, how can I get out of that bad thought? And so, when we do Satipatthana, it is not enough just to be aware. We should be aware with the purpose of overcoming the negative qualities. That is what mindfulness is in terms of Satipatthana. So that is an important difference. So, mindfulness, reminds you of the instruction, what you are supposed to be doing, yeah? Overcoming negative qualities. Awareness just means you are aware without any instruction, without any clarity about what to do. Okay. I need a lot of fuel now because I'm kind of getting hard. Okay, dear Ajahn, I have an office colleague, lots of office stuff here, who always thinks he is the most knowledgeable, likes to put others down, talks behind our backs, carry tales, creates divisions among colleagues, and acts like a bully. How do we deal with such a person? Thank you. I don't know. This is just too hard. I don't know. I think what you do, I don't know exactly. I mean, it depends on his kind of other characters, because people are often complicated. They have all kinds of character traits. One thing to do is to sit down with him one day and have a chat with him and say, listen, we appreciate you as a colleague. You have many nice qualities, like this and this. But there are a few things that are a bit difficult. Are you okay to have a chat about that? If not, that's okay. If you have, let's have a chat about this. Can we do something about this? Because it's really difficult for us. Sometimes you need to communicate with people, and sometimes you can find ways through by communicating. However, sometimes that will not work, because sometimes people's habits are so strong and deep, you cannot really do anything about it. So one way of dealing with it, and this is kind of one of the ways that I think is the most powerful, if you can do it, and this is what I've been saying all along, is to learn something from that situation. Yeah, learn to understand other people, learn to understand what they are like. And someone like that is likely to have a lot of suffering in their life. How can you not have suffering if you treat other people badly? Guaranteed that they have a lot of suffering. They probably feel quite lonely. No one is going to like a person like that. Everyone else is going to shun them. And very often the reason why they are a bully and they treat people badly is because actually they want to be liked, but they don't understand how to be liked. Yeah, they are kind of desperate to find a way through, but they can't do it. And so by thinking like that, you can see them from a different angle, with more compassion, with more understanding. And maybe you can do little things that kind of gets through to them. Try to do acts of kindness towards this person, this bully. Yeah, try to bring them a cup of tea one of these days. Say, here you are, dear colleague. Yeah, or maybe don't have to use the word dear. It must be hypocritical. But here you are, my colleague. Yeah, and So and do little acts of kindness, and sometimes that may go to the heart of the person, and maybe that will change them. Try something that is really counter to how you normally think about things. Yeah, kindness always has an ability to kind of break down some barriers in people. Yeah, when we are kind, people kind of often respond to that. So try some of those alternative strategies. Say some kind words to him. I'm sure there are something kind things you can say to this person. Yeah, smile to them. Say good morning. Good morning. Yeah. How are you today? Yeah, and whatever. Okay, just a second. So you start like that. You're trying to find some positive solutions and trying to have compassion for them because they are in a difficult situation. If you do these kind of things, you will grow in the Dhamma, and maybe you will also pull the other person out of their problem at the same time. Yeah. So this is kind of the ideal way of dealing with this. The ideal way does not always work. So if that doesn't work, then you can do what I said before. Sit down with them and have a chat with them, yeah? And say, okay, listen, yeah, this is a problem. Can we somehow deal with it? If that doesn't work, go to your boss, yeah, one higher up, and say, can we have a chat, all of us together, including the boss, to find a solution? If all of that doesn't work, change your job, yeah? That's kind of the bottom line. What else are you going to do? At the end of the day, you can't allow your life to be miserable. This is one of these things we talked about before. Patirupa desava, so living in a suitable place. It also means having a suitable job. Yeah, it's so important to have good colleagues. Yeah, it really matters. And so, at the end of the day, if things are too hard, change your job, and then maybe things get better. But before you try that, try the Dhamma principles first of all. Okay, please. Yeah. Did you want to say something? Yeah. Yeah. Buy him a T-shirt. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you can do that, but be also a little bit careful, yeah, because sometimes it can backfire if it is too kind of direct hint. If the hint is too direct, it can backfire. Okay. So so we have many questions there. I better carry on. Does anyone else want to say something about that? Yeah, these are very difficult things, and in the end, there isn't any solution to these points. Yeah, the only solution is within yourself. That is where the solutions always lie. Unfortunately, it kind of sounds easier if it is an external solution, but dear Ajahn, kindly show how to search for a particular sutta in the Sutra Central website. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That is kind of the easy way. So are we still connected? Yeah, we are. Okay, so I will get out of... No, I still have to share. No, I have to get out of this share and enter a different share. So let's see what we... Okay. So this is what Sutta Central website looks like. Yeah, you go to suttacentral.net. You can see the web address there, and it looks like this. And so you have on the left-hand side, you have the discourses, the suttas. Then you have the monastic law. This is the Vinaya. This is my translation. You find it right there. Yeah. Ha. Then you have the basket of systematic treatises. That's the Abhidhamma. You have all the way on the right over there. So the most interesting part, by far, is the suttas, the basket of discourses. So you go there, and you click on the basket of discourses, click, and then you get the various collections, right? And so you have here, you have the long discourses, the middle discourses, linked discourses, numerical discourses, and minor discourses, yeah? So these are the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and Khuddaka Nikaya. And so then if you want to find a particular sutta, let's say you want to go to the numerical discourse, we've been doing quite a few of those. So you go to the numerical discourses, yeah, so you have here, and then you have to go to the top one here, because the top one is the Pali. You want to go to the Pali. If you go down to the lower ones down here, you get to the Chinese translations and all of these kind of things, and whatever. So you want to go to the Pali, top one here. If you want to buy the book, you can go here, but if you just want to see online, you go here. And then you have the various chapters of the Anguttara Nikaya. The numerical discourses have 11 chapters. Book of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, etc. So let's say you want to go to the 5s. Let's say we want to go to the 5s, and within the 5s, the 5th chapter, you have a large number of suttas, and it's divided into 50 suttas each. Yeah? First 50, second 50, third 50. So let's say you want to go to sutta number 161. Yeah, so you go down here. This is 151 to 200. So you go there, and then you have 10 suttas. Within each 50, you have 5 chapters of 10 suttas. You want to go to 161, it's over here, chapter on resentment. And then you have the 10 suttas, each one after the other. And you can see there's a lot of things you can do within each sutta. So, first of all, you have the different translation. This is Bhante Sujato translation. Then you have Thanissaro Bhikkhu translation. Then you have the Pali version. Then you have other translations in different languages. Yeah, so you go there. So you have here. You have the translation in what is language that? Is that Hindi or no? What? No, I don't think it's Sri Lankan. No, I think this is Devanagari. I think it's Devanagari, which is it's basically modern Indian language. Then you have the German translation, another German, Spanish, Français. C'est français, no? Buddhavachana.org. So you have French translation, another French one, wow. Then you have Bahasa Indonesia, which is basically like what you have over here, yeah? Then you have Italian, then you have Chinese. This looks like... it's Japanese, right? You have Japanese characters, right? So this is Japanese, yeah? Then you have... what is this? This is, I think, Lithuanian or something, yeah? Then you have Burmese, Dutch, Norwegian. Yay, Norwegian. Then you have Portuguese, Russian, and what is this one here? Also Russian, right? Then you have Sinhala. This is Sinhala, Swedish, Thai, Siam Rat. Yeah. Then you have Vietnamese, and then you have Chinese. Simplified or traditional? Traditional characters, yeah. So many languages, isn't that cool? And some suttas even more languages. And then below that you have the parallels in ancient texts. Okay, there's 0 parallels, that's kind of end of that one. So then let's say most likely you want to go straight to the translation. That's what's interesting for most of us. So you go to the, I wonder what this is here. Okay, that's just some information, okay, whatever. So let's go to, let's say you want to see Bhante Sujata's translation, because they are quite nice translations, I have to say. So go there. And it looks like this. There you get the translation. Yeah, how to get rid of resentment. Very useful sutta. That's why I chose it. So let's say that you want to know the Pali. Yeah, what you don't. English is not enough. Yeah, so you go here to views, and you go side by side over here. Ding. Then you have Pali and English side by side. It's cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's a really nice website. And then you can turn on dictionaries as well. So you can go here and you have the... and actually, first of all, there is a tooltip on asterisks. What this means, you can get the comments, yeah, because he has made lots of comments and like notes. So if you want to see the notes, you turn that one on. And then there are no notes for this sutta. He hasn't finished the note making for the Anguttara yet, so there's nothing there. But for some of the other suttas, there is. And then you can turn on the, where are we? Pali word lookup, yeah, into English. Ding! Turn that one on. And now if you go to Pali, you hover over the, let's say you want to know Bhikkhave, you click on that, you get translation of the word and all the various information about that word. Yeah, dictionary of Pali, basically. Bhikkhave is easy. Let's say you want to go agata, yeah? Annoyance, irritation. Isn't it an amazing tool? It's a really good tool. And they have the same thing for Chinese as well. You can look up the meaning of ancient Chinese and the meaning of that as well. It is not as precise as the Pali, because ancient Chinese is notoriously difficult, but it is similar. Then you have all kinds of references. If you want to have references over here, most of these don't work, but some of them do. And you can kind of get, you have various kind, and then you can kind of, you can also quote, yeah, to various. You can link to the various parts of the text if you want to link to these things, and you can do all kind of fun stuff in this amazing website. So there you are. So, but most of the time you just want to keep it simple. Go back to plain text, and then you can read it in English. So there you are. That's what that is all about. Okay, yeah. 4:30 already. Just showing you that was so many questions left answered. Do it tomorrow. Is that okay? Yeah. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. I think sitting up here. So wonderful. Okay, everyone. So nice to have you all here. So let us just end the day as we normally do, by paying homage to the triple gem. And then I wish you all a very good night, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning here.